Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be the second video in my series going over the Avatar deck building game, Aang's Destiny. So in my first video I unboxed everything, so if you want to see what you get in the box, check out that video. Part 2 here, this video, is going to be how to play, the setup for box 1 and how to play box 1. And then there will be a third video where I cover basically how you transition from box 1 to box 2. How you switch up all the cards and stuff like that, as well as explaining stuff like what rules get added in each box, and just discussing more of the experience as you play box to box overall. Fundamentally, this will be most of the rules of the game. The other boxes only really add sort of one relatively small thing each time, but we're going to start with the basics, of course. So you can see here I have the game board laid out here. I have a few things already in play, but straight away the first thing you need to address is how many players are going to be playing the game. This goes 2 to 4 players, so you can do 2, 3 or 4 players. Now straight away, technically you can play single player. It's just that you don't want to only play with one character. That's sort of the idea that they're getting across here. So it's mostly just the idea of how many boards, player boards, do you want in play, is more the idea. So for 4 separate players, of course, you want to use all 4. And so you're playing in box 1 with Aang, Katara, Appa, and Sokka. They're the 4 characters on offer for box 1. The characters will chop and change as you go through the story, of course. At a certain point, Appa will kind of go away, but Toph comes in. You'll gain access to Zuko towards the end, that sort of thing. But for this game, I'm going to play a 2-player game. So I'm going to do Aang and Katara. So I won't be using Sokka and Appa. So what you do here is, of course, you get 2 player boards out, like so. You have the cards, of course, here. Now, for the most part, in the setup here, these cards in box 1 and 2 don't really do much. They mainly, the only significant thing is just that, hey, the Aang player, you're playing as Aang, and at this point in the story, Aang is an airbender and a waterbender. That's really the only significant thing that you need to know of from the card right now. Later on, you'll get an Aang card that has an effect, and that's, of course, something you need to note. So for Katara, the only things that's worth noting really is that it's Katara and she's a waterbender. So that's the kind of idea there. And then for the most part, what you do with the board is you just kind of put your card somewhere above the board. You designate how much health you have. So you start the game with 10 health. So you put a heart token there. And then you'll note that the significance of the bending is just that you do have these elemental tokens. So there's these ones available for all 4. You just put water bending on the board. And this is basically to highlight that Katara as a waterbender can use water bending cards to their fullest, basically. You'll note that if we set up Aang over here, Aang needs to get an air and a water token. So he's active on 2 spots, and as you go through the game, of course, he'll get access to the other elements as well. But he's going to start here with air and water. So he can use 2 different forms of bending, as you'll see when we set that up later. And he's also going to start with 10 health. So that's the token stuff there. Then what you'd have to do is you have to get out of the box your specific Aang starter card. So for Aang, you get his deck of 10 starter cards, which is this. They have his name on the bottom. They all say it there. And they'll all be, 1 to 7 is what they'll say on the bottom, and I'll explain that more in a minute. But yeah, it's mostly offer aid, 2 helping hands, and then you get specifically like air blast, airbender tattoos, the staff, and air ball. To explain this slightly, the reason Aang can use this card, which is an airbending card, is because he is an airbender, and that's what they mean by like that whole idea. Katara, for the most part, kind of wouldn't really be able to play this card, but this is a starter card, so it's not super relevant right now. But yeah, you take your 10 starter cards, you shuffle them, and you'll note it says draw on the side here, so you just put your deck there, and then you're meant to use this section here as a discard pile overall. So as you go through the game, your health's obviously going to go up and down, so you track it along here, and then there is spots here and here to gain the different tokens that the cards will give you. That's kind of how the gameplay is going to go. So you can see here, Air Blast gives you +1 attack. That's the attack symbol. And basically when you play this card, you take a attack token and just put it here. That for this turn, I have access to this. You also get this effect as well. You know, Offer Aid, this is the most simple card in the game. It just gives you one purpose, which is the resource tokens. And it's a White Lotus tile, so you just take one of them and put it here. And that's what you're going to be doing with your hand, is just just stacking up the tokens that your cards generate and then using them to damage enemies, buy cards, that sort of thing. So that's the setup there. And then the same for Katara. You get Katara's specific deck of cards, which again is going to be 10 for all players, and you go there. So there is a few unique cards, but there is a few repeats. So Helping Hand and Offer Aid are in all the decks, but you can see here Katara gets like Fog, the Water Vial, Streaming the Water, and the Necklace, of course. So that's unique across all the decks. If you really want to get into the weeds, you might want to analyze the Aang, the Katara, the Sokka, the Appa deck and see what symbols you want in your starter deck, because some of them can be more helpful than others depending on what you want to do. So that's mostly what the setup is. And again, the orientation of this doesn't super matter. I think it actually ends up taking up quite a lot of space, when especially the card doesn't really mean that much. So I mostly hide the Aang card, just to highlight that like it's there. And I'd probably more do something like this, like have the pile here and then the discard pile here, just so it's a little bit more contained overall. But I'll properly set this up a little bit later on. But that is the setup for the player board, is just basically your health and your starter deck overall. And it's the same for Katara, of course. So that's all you really do there. And we'll get to now setting up the rest of the board now. So this is where what you do is you get your box 1, of course. You take out all the cards, and basically we're just going to be distributing these out in the various spots on the board. So of course the most obvious place to start probably is with the differently shaped cards. So you have these cards here with the Fire Nation symbol on the back. These are the kind of enemy kind of attack cards, quote unquote, the Fire Nation cards. They are square, and basically what you do is you just shuffle these up. And as you can see, there are 2 square slots up here. And effectively, this is the way it works. It's one slot is to put the deck, and the other slot is to put the active cards. And it's also there as like the discard pile. So the effect activates, and then it sort of stays there. And then when you flip the next one over, of course, it just goes on top there. And then you have your deck and your active/discard pile right there. That's effectively how it works. So at the start of the game, you just stack it there. So you have the active slot open, and that's that. Then you take this pile of cards here. The adversaries, of course, they have the Fire Nation soldier symbol on the back. For box 1, there are 5 adversaries: the Fire Nation ship, the Fire Nation soldier, Uncle Iroh, Commander Zhao, and Prince Zuko. And again, you shuffle these up, because this is a random thing overall. And then, as you'd expect, on the leftmost slot, you put the deck down. And then for box 1 and also box 2, you only flip 1 adversary out. So there's 1 active. As you go through the boxes, this is something where it will change. I believe for box 3, 4, and 5, you will then have 2 active adversaries. And then for box 6 and 7, you'll have 3 active adversaries. Just in case you're wondering, like obviously there is a second slot for a second adversary. Basically what you do for 3 adversaries is you just flip the top card of this deck over. And then say Commander Zhao gets defeated, you just kind of swap them across, and then this card flips over. And that's how you do the sort of distribution of the kind of enemies. But like I said, this is how you do the setup here for box 1, 1 active enemy. Then the next cards we have are the support cards. So these consist of ally cards, item cards, there's action cards as well, bending cards as well. So you take this whole stack and just kind of put them aside for now. Then you will also note that there are these two cards here, which kind of line up together. These are the tracking cards. They have the ship symbol on the back. And as you can see, they just go here. You'll see obviously the way they go, where it's going to be 1 to 15 across, left to right, and that's all you do there. So you just place them down, and then what you do also do is you get your ship token out, which is this little kind of cardboard kind of thing here, where it's a kind of flat token, but then you can put a thing on it to make it like kind of 3D. So it just kind of stacks up there. So you put the ship token on number 1. This is the tracker where the enemy can potentially win. They don't win by getting your health down to 0. They actually win by getting this track from 1 to 15. Because on 15 it says game over. So this is what you really have to manage, as in like it's game over if you don't manage this properly. So that's that. Then you take this stack of cards. These are the kind of like event cards. I forget the exact terminology they use for these, but either way, it's the ones where there's a title, you have to assign a certain amount of stuff, and there's a reward. This should be kept in order. You'll note that on the cards it says on the bottom 1, and then it says 1.1, 1.2. And then you'll note that there are some like ally and other cards in here. These are reward cards. These are meant to be here, because you'll note that, say this one, what it says, the Southern Air Temple, assigned to purpose, and the reward is that Appa gets reward card 1 and Aang gets reward card 2. So you can see here, Momo is an Appa card, so that will become a part of Appa's deck, and then Avatar State becomes a part of Aang's deck. So you earn these cards, and that's why they're here as like part of the story. Kyoshi Island, that earns you Suki, and so on. Some of them just have a kind of general effect where like you gain more health and stuff like that, but there is reward cards throughout. Just keep an eye on them. It does tell you that like reward card 4, and you can see that on the card here it says star 4. And it's one of the few things you really need to keep track of in terms of like keeping your cards together. But basically what you do then is, the rules are a bit weird about the exact orientation that you're meant to have of this. Is, again, it's a deck and a place to have an active card. My copy of the game came with them like face up like this. I think they were meant to come with them kind of backwards, so that this card is technically the first one upside down. All you do is you just do that. You literally just put the deck, if your copy is in this order where it's like 1 going down, just do it like this, where it's your deck, the top card is face up, and then you assign them there, and then when you finish assigning them, you just flip them over like that. Like they go face down, discarded. And then that way there's only one active kind of event at any point in time that you have to, mission kind of that you have to achieve. That's just the way I do it. But again, it's just a deck and a active / discard pile. It's the exact same as like all the other ones, basically. Then the whole bottom of the board is your marketplace. This is where you're buying the cards from. So you separate all the bending cards from the other ones. So basically, if it has an air, water, earth, or fire symbol, and the card says bending, it'll be pretty clear. You separate them out. So here's the water cards, here's the air cards, and then as you can see, air, air, water, water, earth, earth, fire, fire. So what you do here is you shuffle the pile of water cards, and then basically the pile goes on the top, and then the first card goes down here, like that. That way you have two cards active in the marketplace, and you can choose to buy either or. This way, if you buy this one, all you do is you just move this card down, and then this card becomes available. And then obviously if you buy the card off the top just by itself, it solves itself. So that's just the way you do that. And of course you do the same with air bending. So they go here, and then one goes down like this. There's only, I think, 2 separate cards for box 1. Water Whip and Water Shield, and then there's Directed Funnel and Air Kick for that. There's no earth or fire yet, Earth gets introduced, I believe, in box 2, and then fire gets introduced in box 6. So this is kept sort of blank for a certain amount of time, but it will fill up as you go through. Similarly, more cards will get added to these piles as you go through the remaining boxes. And so then the remaining cards, the allies, items, and stuff like that, you just shuffle them up. The deck goes in the slot off to the side here. And then 4 cards go into the 4 spaces here. So of course we have Earth, Fire, but then we have the back of the card symbol here that goes here. So Lychee Nuts, Blubbered Seal Jerky, Kyoshi Warrior Fan, and this is interesting. Note that what it says to do in the rules is that if you get a duplicate card, it just goes on top. It doesn't take up another slot, so it doesn't go like that. Instead, it's just that there's a pile of 2 Kyoshi Warrior Fans for variety. For instance, like there's another one, so 3 Kyoshi Warrior Fans, 2 Blubbered Seal Jerky, 3 Blubbered Seal Jerky, 2 Lychee Nuts, Lychee Nuts, Lychee Nuts, King Boomy. That's the first time I've had that many cards come off the top of the deck like that, but there's only a few cards in box 1. This deck will get added to a lot as you go through the boxes. There's only like 15-20 cards in it at the start. There'll be like 60 by the time you get to the end. Like it'll be a pretty thick deck of cards here. But that is the marketplace at the start. So these are the cards that are available to buy. Like so. So you can see the current marketplace is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards to buy. Though there is duplicates of quite a few cards here as well. But that is the board setup overall. So of course I just showed you how the players are set up with your decks and stuff like that. And then when you start the game, basically all you do is each player draws 5 cards from their deck, and then basically the game begins. You do something to decide which player's going first. I don't think the rules specifically specify which player has to go first or anything like that. Yeah, so I guess among the players, you just decide who goes first. Usually when I'm playing with it, I just have like Aang go first because like he's the main character, but it's completely up to you. Nothing particularly changes, it's just the turn order for players. And then basically what happens is at the start of every turn, before I switch up this sort of form factor here so you can see everything, basically every turn begins with the enemy goes first. So this is the turn sequence, is the enemy flips a card. That card basically triggers the effects of the adversaries. Once that's all resolved, then you get to play your cards. That's how it goes. So just to explain that quickly here, at the start of, say, Aang's turn, what happens here is the top card gets flipped. You do exactly what it says on the card. So this card says, all heroes -1 health, and they can't draw extra cards this turn. So Katara and Aang would go from 10 to 9, and also any effect that might potentially draw them a card won't actually do that. So that's a slight negative effect. So that gets resolved, and then once that resolves, then the effect of the adversaries go off. So right now there's only one, and that is Commander Zhao, but he says active hero -1. So if I'm saying Aang is going first, Aang loses a health, and that's it. That's the enemy phase of the turn basically done, and then Aang could start to play cards. The result of that being that Aang loses 2 health, Katara loses 1 health, and we can't draw extra cards, but we still have our 5 cards in our starting hand. That's the idea of how that works. So I'm just going to slightly adjust this. I think you've seen the board now, how it comes together. I don't have a ton of space here to show this board laid out as it is, and also the character cards at the same time, the character sheets. So I'm just going to slightly adjust this so that everything's a little bit more kind of compressed together so you can see it all on camera. Okay, so as you can see, I've slightly changed the layout a bit so you can actually see everything. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening here because we need to kind of constantly shuffle, draw cards here. So Aang is here. This is his deck. We're just going to discard kind of into here, and I'll also place his hand somewhere here. Same goes for Katara. She'll have her discard pile here, and I'll use her hand here. Otherwise, like, I've just compressed some of this stuff together where we still have the Fire Nation cards and the kind of pile to move the cards into. We have our one adversary here next to the adversary deck. The mission kind of objective is here, and the discard pile here. And then, of course, the tracking map has been just moved across a little bit here, but it's still right there. And then at the top here, we have the non-bending support cards on the deck up here, these four. And then air here, air kind of extra card here, water, water. That's just the way we're going to do it here. I think this is probably the best way to kind of lay it out overall. Final thing, I'll just use the quick reference kind of guide on the back of the instruction manual just to highlight what some of this stuff is. Like I said before, the White Lotus tile is purpose. It's basically resource. This is what you use to buy cards. You can see down here at the bottom of this card, Water Sphere Shield, it costs 4. And it's for purpose. That's basically what that is. Attack is that symbol, and obviously, as you can tell, that is how you do damage to the enemies. So Zhao here has 5 health. We need to do 5 damage there. But the attacks will also be used to kind of clear objectives as well. Health is not just used as a marker for the character health. That can also be used, of course, to kind of do damage to the enemy also. And then some of the objectives might also require us to assign like healing, basically, because cards can heal. And some of them will be like assign healing here. So basically, instead of healing a character, you kind of quote unquote heal the objective instead. This symbol, of course, just refers to adversary, highlighting that it's one of the enemy characters. Fire Nation card, that's the effect for that. Tracking refers to the ship. So some cards will move that along. We'll have cards that will be able to push it back. That's what that means. The +1 means draw a card. The X card means discard a card. And then like there's a card box. This symbol here that is on the back of all the support cards is for support cards. So this is bending, item, action, all those kind of generic type of cards are that. And then star is reward cards. And then otherwise we have bending ally cards, non-bending ally cards. There are bending cards, item, action, and reward cards. The distinction between a lot of this stuff doesn't super matter, but just worth noting overall. So let's get into actually playing the game. So I kind of highlighted what kind of happened on the first turn anyway, but we'll go through it again. So remember, Aang's going to go first. This is the first card off the deck. So at the start of a turn, this is what happens. You flip this card over, all heroes -1 health, and cannot draw extra cards this turn. So Aang's health goes down from 10 to 9. Katara's goes down from 10 to 9. That card has been complete. We just have to remember we can't draw extra cards this turn. Then Zhao activates. A Fire Nation card always kind of activates the adversaries. Zhao says active hero -1. Aang is the player going first, so he loses 1 health. So Aang goes down to 8. So you can sort of see that's what the enemy have done to us this turn. And now it's our time to go. We should have already, I think, drawn our 5 cards, but it doesn't matter too much. So this is our hand for Aang. So you can see here we get Helping Hand. We have 2 Offer Aids, Airball, and also the Airbender Staff. So straight away, the easiest card to explain is Offer Aid. And basically what we're going to do here is we're just going to play our cards. What you are trying to do on your turn, and to win the game, this is an important section, I suppose, to explain this, is of course, there are basically 3 things we can do on our turn. 1, assign stuff, tokens that we get from our cards to the objective. Because to win, we need to finish all of these objectives and defeat all of the enemies. So we have to clear both of these decks to win. Along the way, we of course want to power up our deck by buying cards over here, bending cards and non-bending cards to add to our deck. So there are basically 3 places where our resources are going. We're trying to attack Commander Zhao, do whatever the current mission objective says to do. So in this case, it is, we have to assign a purpose and an attack to complete this. So we're using attack here, attack and purpose here, and then our purpose is also going over here to buy our cards. Other effects, we of course, to avoid losing, we want to keep the ship from getting from 1 to 15 over here, because 15 is game over. So you're trying to keep track of quite a few different things. Now, early on, there's nothing too crazy going on, not to mention looking after your health as well. Because I'll address, I suppose right now, what happens when your health goes down to 0? You'll note that at the end of the track, instead of 0, it says stun. And it's described here at the bottom. Stun. Discard all tokens and half the cards in your hand, add 1 tracking, and then reset your HP to 10 at the end of the turn. So if you ever go down to full to 0 health, any kind of tokens that you have maybe like saved up, that like maybe when your allies gave you, they go away, so you don't get to use them. It's half the cards in your hand rounded down. So if you have a starting hand, of course, that is, half is 2.5, but it's rounded down. So you discard 2 cards. Similarly, if you have 3 cards in hand, you'd only discard 1. If you have 4 cards in hand, you lose 2, of course, that sort of idea. +1 to tracking means the ship moves along by 1, so you're 1 step closer to losing. But otherwise, your hero does come back to full health next turn, but you are slowed down drastically because your hand is your resources. So if you lose half of this, you're not doing as much damage, you're not buying as many cards. That's why it's important to also heal yourself with certain cards at certain times, depending on what you want your deck to do, of course. So, I think a lot of the ways, until we get into the more complicated cards, a lot of the time what you want to do is just play your cards out, see what you have. So if we just do that, so offer aid +1, a second offer aid +2. This is where we start to have to break out the token bag, of course, here, filled with all the different tokens and stuff like that. And yeah, to kind of highlight the token stuff, you obviously have, they give you tons of tokens that are the purpose tokens, tons of tokens that are the attack tokens. You just have a stack of them basically there to kind of help mark things primarily. A lot of this you can sort of do in your head, especially if you have a pretty simple set of cards. And then you should also have at least a few extra heart tokens just in case they are required anywhere. So anyway, let's keep track of this. So we've played 2 offer aids, which adds 1 to purpose, and you can see here we're just putting them on our player board here in the slot that kind of signifies them. We'll then move on to this card here. So we'll play Airbender Staff. Now what this card says is +1 purpose, so we get that anyway, and then it has the bonus effect, which is that as you can sort of see there, you may put any bending cards you acquire on top of your deck instead of in your discard pile. So we'll just note that we have that, and we'll come back to that later on. It basically just means that the Airbender Staff allows us to basically, the card that we buy, maybe at the end of this turn, we'll have that in our hand for like the next turn. Rather than usually you have to wait, it's in the discard pile for a bit, and then it will eventually get shuffled into your deck, like most deck building games work. So that's all that does. Then we have 2 choice cards. The 4th card in our hand is Airball, which basically says +1 health or +1 attack. So early on, I don't think we're super worried about health that much. So I'm going to choose to get the +1 attack for Airball. So now you can see we have 3 purpose and 1 attack. And then the final card is kind of interesting. Every starter deck has one of these. It's +1 purpose or remove this card from play to get +3 purpose. So we can go up to basically either 4 purpose or 6 purpose, depending on what way we want to use this card. And this is where you need to look at what's available in the marketplace and see what we want to actually get. So if I have 6, I could actually buy 2 cards because there's a lot of 3-cost cards in play. There is also King Boomy who costs 6 as well, and he's a kind of nice card. But I think it's probably best for Aang to pick up probably some bending cards initially. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Helping Hand for its remove from play effect. the way I do remove from play is I just put it like underneath the board. I'm just going to say, okay, remove from play. This goes underneath here. And I just have it like kind of poking out the edge, but I get 3 purpose tokens. So that's all of our cards played. And again, note from a technical standpoint, when you play the cards, they're in a sort of like in play area. They're not in the discard pile yet, but they will go there basically at the end of our turn. Now we have to assign our tokens. So the simple thing here is with the attack. The only place we can put the attack token is either do 1 damage to Commander Zhao or assign it to complete the objective here, escape Fire Nation at the South Pole. So we could advance this by half of the marker. We could actually complete this if we wanted to by doing 1 of these and 1 of these, and then we would have 5 left over. But I actually want to purchase 2 cards, so I'm just going to put the attack token on Zhao, because I think of the cards that are in play from box 1, Zhao and Iroh are probably the 2 most threatening cards, just because of Zhao constantly taking a health off every turn. Iroh is the much more challenging card. Just to explain that a little bit, Iroh's effect is that it just says +1 tracking every turn. So every turn that starts to move along. And one of the cards that can come out of the fire deck is +2 tracking. So if you get a run, and because there's not that many cards in the deck, I think there's 2 or 3 of those +2 trackings, you can very quickly get to the end of this track. And note what the tracker board says. When you get from 10, when you get up to 10, you start to draw 2 fire cards from the deck, not just 1. And that starts to add up. All of a sudden, there's 2 negative effects going off on the top, and that can get very, very kind of snowball, basically. So yeah, we've done 1 damage to Zhao. We just put an attack token on there. I suppose you could put a heart token there and manage it that way. I find it easier to do it as in like, I've done 1 damage. And then I can just do 5 - 1, 4. That's the way I track it anyway. Now we have to spend our 6 purpose, which is basically just, hey, remove them from your board, buy cards. That's all you're really doing here. So what I'm going to do here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy Directed Funnel for 3. You can see what this card does. It's got 2 lines, +1 purpose and then +1 purpose, but it's also got the airbending glider staff effect, where bending cards you acquire go on top of your deck instead of in your discard pile. Now again, remember that we have that effect in play already because of this card. Any bending cards you acquire go on top of the deck, not into our discard pile. So this card actually goes right here, and we will draw that shortly. But I still have, that costs 3. I still have 3 left. Note the way the rules work is that you don't refill until the end of your turn. So Directed Funnel is still the only thing there. I don't get to reveal what's next just yet. But I'm also going to buy Water Whip, which is a water bending card, but it costs 3 as well. So I'll pay the other 3 here to buy this. And again, the same rule applies. My staff says any bending cards go on top of my deck, not into the discard pile. And now we've used everything that we have. And this is where our kind of turn comes to an end. And we do the kind of like refresh thing kind of at the end of the turn. End of your turn. Place played and unplayed cards on the discard pile. Discard unused tokens, then draw 5 cards. Pretty simple. So yeah, the cards we played now go into the proper discard pile. And then we draw back up to 5. So you have a hand basically always. The reason for that is because there are cards on like the next player's turn that can discard cards from both players' hands. So that's why you draw up your hands now. So you'll note again, we have the 2 cards we just purchased quicker because of that staff card, plus 3 other cards there. So that is our hand for the next turn here. And then, like I said, what ends up happening is that also at the end you refresh what happens here. So the only space is the air effect. So all we do is we just take Directed Funnel, we move it down, and that reveals Air Kick. And it's the same for like over here. If Boomy was bought, we'd flip a card from here over here, but this stays as is otherwise. Now, it's Katara's turn, but again, we should probably have already drawn her cards into her hand already. So this is Katara's hand here. Fog, Offer Aid, the Water Tribe Necklace, Streaming the Water, and the Water Vial. So, again, at the start of a turn, flip a card off the top. This time it's Fire Stream. Active hero -2 health. So that's very simple to do. Katara was already on 9. She now goes down to 7. And then Zhao activates. The active hero -1. So it goes down by that. So you can sort of see that you can get these run of cards like that where that combos well together. That's 3 damage in 1 turn. Pretty devastating. But Aang is left out. It's not an effect that affects both players. And that is the enemy actions. Now Katara gets to go. And now that I've explained the turn order, it's pretty simple to kind of know what to do basically from here. We just play our cards. So Fog straight away. Right now the ship is on 1. We can't make it go back any further. So the card's not really going to do anything. So we just sort of accept that, okay, that card's going to kind of get used and be discarded. Offer Aid. So +1. The Water Tribe Necklace also is +1. But it also has another effect that if you discard Water Tribe Necklace, it's +2 purpose. So for instance, this is how you get a positive from a negative. If, say, an effect over here said each player has to discard a card, I could choose to discard Water Tribe Necklace and get actually more purpose than if I played the card normally. So there are some of these cards that have that benefit for discarding. But for now, we just play 1. So that brings us up to 2 purpose. Then we have these 2 cards, which are a choose effect. So the Water Vial is +1 attack or heal a hero by 2. And the other one is +1 attack or heal any 2 heroes by 1. So we could choose to do 2 damage, or we could do a lot of healing, or we could do 1 damage and a bit of healing. I'm not too worried about the healing right now, so I'm going to do both of these cards for the attack stuff. So you can see here, 2 attack tokens, and unfortunately that's it. So that's all Katara can generate in terms of tokens. So pretty simply, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to assign 1 to the objective. So 1 attack to the objective, and then 1 damage to Zhao. And then there are no cards to purchase that cost only 2 purpose. So I can't buy cards. So I'm going to have to assign one of them, one of the 1 purpose to escape the Fire Nation at the South Pole. And then unfortunately, our last purpose is going to have to be left unused because there is literally nothing to use it on, and you don't get to keep it. Because like I said there in the turn reference card, discard unused tokens. So this happens, unfortunately. Sometimes there are times when that's just not going to work out for you there. But what has happened is we've completed this objective. You can see here it said to assign 1 purpose and 1 attack. We did that. The reward for the first one is nothing. But what happens here is that just that goes away. This is revealed. Again, the timing technically is that gets revealed at the end of the turn, if I remember correctly. So you can't on 1 turn just blitz through all the objectives if you have a ton of thing. No, that comes into play after kind of Katara's turn. But you can see what the next objective is. It's visit the Southern Air Temple. It is assigned 2 purpose, but there is a reward this time. If you're playing Appa, he gets a reward card, and Aang will also get a reward card. So that is pretty nice. But that's that. So Katara's completed an objective and done 1 damage, but it's not been a super amazing turn. She didn't get to add a card to her hand, but she'll draw back up to 5. And you'll note that her deck is now kind of missing. You don't do a deck refresh until you have to actually draw a card. But again, what you do is you just shuffle your discard pile and it becomes your deck. And that's the same across the board. If you run out of these cards, you shuffle and the discard pile becomes the deck again. Of course, the adversaries don't do that because you're just trying to defeat them all. And the same goes for this deck as well. And then, of course, you're never going to run out of support cards really over here. So that's that. Then we go back around to turn 3. So this is going to be an Aang turn again. So again, what happens here is Fire Stream again, active hero -2, and then Zhao is also -1. So it's actually just Aang loses 3. So 1, 2, 3. So he goes down to 5 health. And you can sort of see here, we're starting to get whittled down by a lot of these minus effects. So this is where we might be wanting to start thinking about doing a little bit of healing at some point here. Just so we don't get stunned and get super slowed down overall. But you can see, once you have the basics down, it's pretty simple of just, it's card, effect, play all the cards from your hand, assign them where you can. Now, it gets much trickier in the later boxes when there's multiple adversaries in play, and all of a sudden, there's these really interesting combos. Like, what if you had another character, enemy, who is also doing damage? You're going to need to focus one of them down so you can stop getting kind of hit really hard. And there's other combinations that can do a lot of damage as well. So let's get going here. So with Aang, we'll play Air Blast. So that gives us +1 attack. And it also has an effect where if we defeat an adversary, we can heal a hero by 1. So I don't think that's going to be possible this turn. Actually, no, it might be, because we can use our Water Whip, which gives us +1 purpose and +2 attack. So we have 3 attack, and you'll note that Zhao only has 5 health, and he already has 2 damage. So we actually will be able to get that benefit there. So I'll just note that on the bottom there. We'll keep that effect in play. Offer Aid is going to be another +1 purpose. We'll play Directed Funnel, which will give us actually +2 purpose. Yeah, and again, if I buy a bending card, it goes on the top of my deck. It has that effect as well. And then we also have Helping Hand, which I'm going to, the second Helping Hand. So I'm actually going to play for its removed from play. I think early on with this card, I tend to always go for the immediately removed from play, just because I think you need to add the more powerful cards to your starter deck as soon as possible, especially in the later boxes. That's a big thing. So you can see here, Aang has ended up with 7 purpose and 3 attack. So there's a lot we can do. So straight away, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out Zhao. I'll assign my 3 attack to the 2 that's already there. So Zhao is now taken 5 damage, and you can see on his card, if I could pick it up, that yeah, he only has 5 health. He's been defeated. So the second he's defeated, the reward goes off. His reward is all heroes +1. So Aang goes up by 1, Katara goes up by 1, and we'll turn him face down here, just to signify he has been defeated. And then we'll flip over the other adversary at the end of the turn, of course. But also, let's not forget this effect on our Air Blast. If you defeat an adversary, a hero gets +1. So I'm going to heal Aang by 1. And now both of them are back to 7 because of that kind of extra little bit of healing overall. So that's all the attack stuff assigned. And now we can choose how to do our purpose. So again, there is the mission objective, which is assigned to purpose. And then we have, what do we have here? 4, 3, 3. Boomy costs 6. We could maybe get him. We've got 4, 3, 3, 4 over here as well. So there is some interesting stuff here. One thing I will kind of call out is that, say bending cards like this, these two, Air Kick and Water Whip, just really nice stats stuff, like Air Kick especially, +2, +2. That's very nice. And for Water Whip for 3, +1, +2. Those are pretty good just stack cards to have, that if they begin to stack up later on in the game, you're doing a lot of damage, you're being able to purchase a lot of cards. So some of those are quite nice overall. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy King Boomy for 6. Now, I won't get the benefit here of, because he's not a bending card, the effect that I have there doesn't go off. So instead, when you normally buy a card, it goes into the discard pile. And you'll note that the kind of order here is that these are our played cards, but he goes straight to the discard pile. These will then go onto the discard pile later. So we'll buy Boomy for 6. So that gets rid of all these. And then we have one left over, and I'll assign that to the Southern Air Temple here. So half of that is done, and hopefully Katara can finish that off next turn. So yeah, as the turn comes to an end, our played cards go to the discard pile. We draw back up to 5, so we draw 2, and then we'll do the shuffle here. So we'll shuffle our discard pile. And then we draw 3 more cards. And most of the starter cards overall, so that's that. So then what happens is, yeah, we replace stuff. So there's an empty spot over here with the general support cards. So Tyro fills that spot over here. And then also we need to add a new adversary. So we flip it over and it's Uncle Iroh. So yeah, I was mentioning him before. He is pretty tricky to deal with. Just because the +1, especially in early turns, if you get him first, that's going to be probably the hardest game of box 1 you're going to have. Because especially if you're just getting used to the rules and stuff like that, you don't know that actually -1 tracking, any effect that has that, is actually something you should really prioritize. So you'll note that in Aang's starter deck, he doesn't have anything that removes tracking. Katara has the card Fog, which does remove tracking. You can see that here in the discard pile. I think Sokka has one. I think Appa has one. So Aang, I think of the starter set stuff here, is the only character who doesn't have that. But some of the other cards do have tracking removal. But I don't think there's that much in box 1. Overall, so just be aware of that certain combinations of characters is actually going to be easier for box 1 with the sort of limited kind of stuff basically that's in play overall. So just keep that one in mind there. So with all that setup stuff done, it's then back around to Katara's turn. So the card flips over and you can see here's the combination. That's kind of tricky. +2 tracking, and then Iroh is +1 tracking. So that's this moves from 1 to 4, which isn't too bad, but that's going to start to add up. And again, like I said, when the tracking gets to 10, 2 cards are going to come off the top here. And then when we get to 10, we're only 5 away from losing the game. So that is tricky. We do want to probably focus Iroh down as soon as possible, so it's going to be easier for us. And again, to achieve victory, the only 2 things we're trying to do is defeat all the enemies and complete the objectives. So you can actually choose to kind of ignore the objectives, just defeat all the enemies, and then just focus down the missions. The cards are still going to come off the top. It's just there won't be that extra effect from the adversary. So you can choose to do them in that way overall. You could focus on these and not really do the enemies and get all the rewards, but I don't think that's particularly good strategy overall. So that's everything for Katara's kind of opening turn, basically. So then she has a pretty simple kind of set of cards in her hands where there's its only purpose in hand. So 3 offer aids is just +1, +2, +3. And then 2 helping hands, which you can go to like +1, +1, or remove from play. So I'm actually going to remove both from play, meaning Katara will generate 9 purpose. So I'll just, remove the 2 helping hands from play here. And yeah, Katara will have 9 purpose to deal with here. So that is quite a lot. She can assign 1 to the Air Temple, which we will do. That leaves 8 left over. So just remember that she has 8 to deal with. I'll actually do it now while we're here. So she's a waterbender. She can actually buy airbending cards. Just to quickly note this, because I didn't note it before. On these cards, the reason they're separated into sort of 1 line, 2 line is that any character gets the value of the top line. You don't have to be the bender of that discipline to get that. It's the one on the bottom. You can see there's an air symbol next to this second line. Only an airbender gets that secondary effect. Similarly with the water cards, only a waterbender gets this bottom effect. So Katara could buy this card to get the +1, but you wouldn't get the +1 and bending cards go to the top of your deck. So that's why there is more value for like a Katara at the moment buying the air cards. Because I also don't think across the entire set, I don't think there's any way except the 1 or 2 other Avatar cards. I think Roku and Kyoshi are the only ways that Katara can gain access to using airbending cards herself. So that's the kind of situation she has there. So Katara has some stuff to do here. So I'm going to buy Water Sphere Shield for 4. That brings us down to 4 overall. And then also I will buy... I'll buy a Kyoshi Warrior Fan, actually, because it's kind of nice. It's +1 attack or +1 to any hero, so that's nice healing for Katara. And that uses all of her stuff. We'll then resolve the fact that we completed the Southern Air Temple. So you can see here, assigned 2, we have assigned 2. So yeah, that completes, and again we put that face down over here. And then the reward here is that there are 2 reward cards to be given. So Momo goes into Appa's deck, and Avatar State goes into Aang's deck. Now, that goes straight to the discard pile, and then because we're not playing with Appa, this doesn't really come into play. Though, be aware that in box 1, this actually becomes a starter card for Appa. So for box 2, if you play as Appa, you actually keep this Momo card with you along the way. Similarly, this Avatar State Aang cards stays with Aang for all 7 boxes. So his starter deck goes from 10 to 11 cards. Appa's deck goes from that to that as well. And you'll see later on that Katara will actually gain 2 cards at the end of this box as well. But for now, because we're not using this, we'll just put this to the side here, just to highlight that, hey, for box 2, if someone wants to switch over to play as Appa, it's there. Momo is meant to be part of that deck overall. So yeah, that's that. That is the end of Katara's turn. So she has to draw back up. So she has to shuffle and draw. So she didn't do any damage to Iroh. He does have 7 health, so there is quite a lot going on there. But we're not in too much danger just yet. But it does mean that, like, say, like the planning at the moment should be like, okay, we probably need to buy cards that actually do a lot of damage. So focus on cards that add attack. So Katara draws up to 5, and then we'll refresh this. So just the water card gets revealed over here, which is kind of nice. And then, yeah, it's back over to Aang. We flip over card. Active hero -1, and then there's the discard a card effect. And then, of course, Uncle Iroh +1. So that goes up to 5. And we've got time here. It's not too bad, but we just have to keep an eye on that because in 5 turns, suddenly they'll start drawing 2. That's what we just need to note there. And yeah, Aang should have 5 cards in hand as well. So there's that. So yeah, we have to discard a card. Now when it says that, it doesn't say anything about randomly, because later on there will be cards that specify discard a card randomly. So I do believe when it just comes up generically, you are allowed to choose what card you want to discard. So in this case, the obvious choice is Offer Aid, because it just adds +1, whereas a lot of our other cards are +1 and something else, +1 and something else, +1 and an effect. And then we prefer that at the moment over an extra purpose. So we'll discard Offer Aid. So this time we start with only 4 cards in hand, but it includes 2 purchased cards, so we're in a pretty good spot. So let's start playing the cards. So Water Whip is 1 purpose, 2 attack. Directed Funnel is 2 purpose. And then Bending cards, if we buy any, they'll go straight to the top of our deck. But we get that effect again because Airbender Staff adds another purpose, so we're up to 4. And then Airball allows us to heal or do a damage, and we'll get the attack token. So Aang has 4 purpose, 3 attack, and straight away we're going to go, yeah, all 3 damage on Iroh. It's the only place it can go. That's good progress. And then, do we want to progress the objective anymore or buy a card is the question. I think want to buy a card because Air Kick is here, and Air Kick is pretty nice. +2/+2 is very, very solid. So we'll buy that, and it goes on the top of our deck because of that effect, remember? That's kind of the that's sort of the airbender effect of just it speeds up your bending cards type thing. So that's that. That's all revealed. We've not progressed anything else. Aang just has to redraw his hand. So we have to do that here. These go into the discard pile. We shuffle the discard pile. And so you can see that the game actually does take a little bit, because there's still, how many more adversaries? There's still 3 more after Iroh. Now, admittedly, we've taken out Zhao. Iroh is pretty close here. Zuko, Fire Nation Soldier, and Fire Nation Ship. So 2 of the weaker enemies are still left in the deck. And once we start to add a few more cards from the pile into our deck, it's going to get relatively easy, I would say, to actually kind of like win the day overall. So that's that situation. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards for Aang in his hand. So that's fine. And then we move across Katara's turn. So this goes active hero -2. So Katara goes down to 5. This moves on by 1. And then Katara gets to go. So what do we have here? This is where fog actually gets used. So fog -1. So we go from 6 back down to 5, which is nice. That saves us a turn. Offer aid gives us +1 purpose. And here we go. Water sphere shield. +1 purpose, and all heroes draw 1 card. So Katara gets a card and Aang gets a card. So he goes up to 6 cards in hand. So some of those draw effects are actually really good. Like you can end up drawing a ton of cards, and especially later on, there are a lot of cards that are does something plus draw a card. So you can really add up how much is going on here as well. And especially those all heroes draw, you can really set your ally up for next turn quite well. Water Tribe Necklace, we just get the +1 purpose. And then we have our choice here between attack or healing. I'm going to go for both attack here. So we get 2 attack tokens here. So yeah, we'll assign these 2 straight away to Iroh. So he goes up to 5 damage, so he only has 2 health left, and we have 3 purpose to spend. So I'm going to buy Water Whip with this. So 3 for Water Whip right here. That goes into the discard pile, and the turn basically comes to an end at this point. So we just refresh the store here with what we bought. Nothing else going on, and yeah, Aang's turn. So there we go. +2 tracking, +1 for Iroh. That's +3 tracking. So that means we go 1, 2, 3 up to 8. So you can see here we're getting close to that 10. Next turn, if we get another +2 tracking, that leaves us actually in a little bit of trouble. So we need to get rid of Iroh quickly here, or get some more effects that go minus tracking. But otherwise we're in a pretty decent spot because not a lot of damage is being done while that's happening here. So we'll go Air Blast, gives us +1 attack, and if we defeat, we get +1 health. Offer Aid is a purpose. Air Ball is another attack, so we'll have enough to defeat Iroh for sure. And let me actually just see here. Actually, looking at what we have in our hand, I don't need to choose attack for Air Ball, because we won't be able to use all the attack that we generate. So I'll actually heal myself for 1 using Air Ball. Airbender Staff gives us +1 here. King Boomy gives us +2 purpose, and we draw a card. So this is actually going to be our 7th card we play this turn. We'll come back to Avatar State in a second. Air Kick then gives us +2 purpose and +2 attack. That's why you can see I reversed the decision I made earlier. And then Avatar State, we haven't got to this card yet, but here's what it does, because we only earned this as a part of this game. You can see here, lose up to 3 health. For each health lost, gain your choice of purpose or attack. So you can choose, and it says up to, so you can actually spend this for 0 if you want. just to get rid of it. It gets discarded anyway, but just be aware of that. You're not forced to lose health. And Aang cannot choose to lose his last health. So when you're on 1, you can't stun yourself with this effect. Not that you'd really want to. So you can get 3 purpose, 3 attack, or any combination in between, like 1 purpose, 2 attack, that sort of thing. Sometimes you don't want to go all the way to 3. You might just be like, actually, I just want 1 of this. So we have more than enough attacks, so we don't want that. The question is, do we want to add a bit more purpose? I have 6 here. What do I actually want to add to the deck? Directed funnel, lychee nut. So if I buy lychee nut and maybe water sphere shield. So what I'll do is I'll play Avatar State for 1. I'll lose 1 health to gain 1 purpose. And that's what I'll do. So we'll then assign our stuff here. Actually, what I'll do is I'll actually go all the way down. So I'll do this. I'll get 2 more purpose. This, and we need another 1 out of the bag. So we'll get 9. So I'm going to do the full Avatar State, take all 3 damage here. Then what I'll do is I'll assign 2 to the effect to progress this. 2 of this goes to Iroh to defeat Iroh. So Iroh is now defeated. The reward happens, which is -1 tracking, any hero +2. So you can see there, I spent 3 health, but I get 2 health back by defeating. So that's good. That's fine. This will not get used because there's nothing to use it on. And then I have 7 purpose to spend, which, like I said, I'm going to spend 3 of it for lychee nuts, which is actually another really nice card. It's +1 attack and +1 healing, which for 3 is actually, I think, a pretty nicely priced card. It's interesting that this is actually one of the better cards overall. So there's that. And then I'll spend 4, the last 4 here, for Water Sphere Shield, which I believe goes on the top of my deck because I played, Airbender Staff. So it goes to the top of the deck, not the discard pile. And that basically brings the turn to an end. So yeah, we just do our replacement stuff where the water gets replaced over here. There was already a second lychee nut over here. The progress on this then moves on. So Kyoshi Island goes away. Sokka gets reward card 3, which is Suki. So Suki gets added to your starter deck for Sokka. And again, that's not just for this game. This is continuing onwards after that as well. So that's fine. King Boomy's challenge is up next. And then, Iroh has been defeated. So we'll get the next adversary into play. So, Iroh's defeated. We've already got the reward. And who is up next? It's the Fire Nation ship. So the effect here is any one hero -1 health. So you can see it's not as powerful as sort of like, what was it, like Zhao's effect, which was just active hero -1, where it's very targeted. You can choose to give this to whoever has the most health and kind of plan it out a little bit better. So that's why it's an easier one to kind of deal with. So, that's that. And that was Aang's turn, so he'll just draw back up to 5. Katara should also be drawn back up to 5. And we continue on. So +2. So you can see here that it was important to get rid of Iroh because this goes from 7 to 9. Whereas if Iroh is still in play, we'd be on 10. Now, we wouldn't draw 10 another one immediately. It's like at the start of the turn, if it's on 10, then you draw 2 cards there. So, but we've prevented that here, and I think there's only 3 Find the Avatars for +2 tracking, so there's maybe not as much of a capacity for tracking moving on at this point. So I think we're pretty in the clear now, where we've weathered the storm for the most part. Now it's all just about doing what we can here before the deck gets refreshed and those cards come back into play here. So yeah, +2, and then any hero -1. I'll just put Aang down to 5, even though it's Katara's turn. That's the choice we have. And then I'll just play her hand. So 3 offer aid is just +3 purpose. Water Sphere Shield is another purpose, and then also we draw a card, and Aang also draws a card as well. There's another offer aid for +1, and then Water Vial we get to +2 or +1 attack. We'll get the attack because we don't have any attack otherwise, and we'll go with that. So I will assign the attack to the objective here, just because I'm not super worried about the Fire Nation ship. This is a situation where I'm actually fine with that being in play for now, because that's a very easy effect to sort of handle as the player, and we can maybe progress the objectives a little bit, maybe get some rewards, and be prepared for the run into the last kind of couple of enemies. And that's kind of how you can manage the game, especially later on, is that sometimes you'll get 2 or 3 adversaries that are really difficult in combination. You get rid of the main one causing the problem, and then all of a sudden the new combination isn't as bad, and you can kind of relax a little bit. You can set up a little bit more, and then really push forward when you have stronger cards. But yeah, we have 5 to spend here, and I'm going to buy... Just going to buy Water Whip for 3. So unfortunately these 2 will go to waste, but I'll buy Water Whip. And then Katara will draw up to 5 again. And that's that. There's only 1 water card left in the pile, of course. But Katara can still buy the airbending stuff if she wants to. But yeah, we move on. Next, all heroes -1 and can't draw extra cards. So 4 down to 4. Any hero -1, I'll do that on Katara. And then it's time to go. Okay. So let's add all this together. What do we have here? So we have offer aid ×2 is just 2 purpose. We'll do Water Sphere Shield. We can't draw cards, and that affects both players. So Water Sphere Shield for us this turn only adds a purpose. I'll do Water Whip then. That adds a purpose and 2 attack. Directed Funnel adds 2 purpose, and bending cards go to the top of our deck. And then we have Airbender Tattoos. I'm actually going to play the second effect. All heroes get +1 purpose. So we get +1, but then Katara also gets +1. I think this is the first instance of one player giving another player a token for next turn. So this is an example of something where, like, if Katara got stunned before she's able to, like, play her stuff, she would lose this token, but we'll hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, let's go 1 onto the objective, 1 attack onto the ship, and then we have 7 to play with here. What am I going to buy? I'm going to buy... Yeah, I'm just going to buy Directed Funnel, another Directed Funnel, and Lychee Nut. So it does leave us with 1 left over, but that's fine, because I want a little bit more attack. I like the fact that Lychee Nut has the healing as well as doing an attack. That's nice to get. Because sometimes it feels like you almost don't want to buy the cards that are just exclusively healing, so the fact that this is something and healing is nice. But yeah, this is completed, all heroes +1, so we get an extra health. That should be helpful for Katara especially next turn. And then yeah, we'll replace all the cards that have been used here. So Air Kick is revealed, which is good. Nothing else has been defeated. This changes. So the next objective is rescue the Earthbenders, assign 3 purpose, and Katara will get reward card 4, which is Haru, will get added to her deck. Okay, from there we move on to Katara's turn. So Last card in the deck, active hero -1 and discards a card. So we have to decide to discard a card. And look, this is where we can make use of the fact that we have Water Tribe Necklace. If you discard Water Tribe Necklace, +2 purpose. So that's good. We'll discard that. That actually gives us a bonus here. So we now have 3 purpose. Because again, Aang gave us +1 with the Airbender Tattoo card from last turn. And then any hero -1 will do that on Aang from the Fire Nation ship. And then we can get to playing the rest of our cards. So, Fog, -1. That's helpful just to start to push it back a little bit. Like I said, there's not really a lot of cards present in the game that can push it back. And so we kind of need to get going here because the deck's next turn is going to refresh. So those +2 tracking cards are going to come back into play. And we do need to be a little bit cautious about when they start to happen. But Water Whip, +1 purpose, +2 attack. Streaming the Water, +1 attack. And Kyoshi Warrior Fan. Do I want to do some healing now or not, or take this out? I'll risk it. So I'll do this for +1 attack. And then what I'll do is I'll assign all 4 to the Fire Nation ship. So that's 1 + 4, that's 5 damage. The Fire Nation ship will get taken out. So all heroes +1 cards. So Katara gets a card and she can't play this turn. And then Aang actually gets, I guess, has to draw 6 cards in that case. So yeah, these have all been spent. But now we get to play Water Sphere Shield for 1. And then all heroes draw a card again. So we draw another card, Offer Aid for +1. And then Aang gets another card. So Aang now has 7 cards in hand for next turn. So that should be a really big turn for Aang. But we also have some stuff to spend here. So because the reward for this is that Katara gets a card, I'm going to spend 3 of this straight away on Rescue the Earthbenders, completing this objective. So Katara gets reward card 4. And like I said, it's Haru. This card will be part of Katara's starter deck going forward, not just for this box. Very good card. Haru is a +1 attack and all heroes +1. So it's that the card doesn't just heal, it's additional healing. And then also it is a Earthbender character in Katara's deck. So he will allow Katara access to Earthbending cards as of box 2. With the new mechanic that will get introduced in the second box. But for now, he is still a pretty good card. So he goes into this card pile and he'll be shuffled into the deck shortly. So that's that. And we still have 3 left to buy something with. I will spend the 3 for Lychee Nuts. Really like this card. And then everything should be okay. Actually, I think I forgot to do this, did I? Wait, which card? Oh no, I defeated this turn, didn't I? How am I forgetting all this stuff? There's a lot to kind of keep track of. Yeah, I assigned 4 to this to defeat this turn. So as we go into next turn, Zuko is up next. And this is the last real challenge that I think we'll have in the box. Each time an effect adds any number of tracking, the active hero gets -2. So the combo here is that if one of those +2 tracking cards comes off the top of the deck, it's going to be, of course, +2 tracking, which is bad, and then -2 damage, which is kind of bad. Otherwise, Zuko's actually not too bad to deal with, where like 70% of the deck, he doesn't actually do anything. But we are getting quite low on health, is the only thing. So we're going to have to start to do a little bit of healing going forward, is the other point. So yeah, that is the end of that. So yeah, we just have to shuffle these cards back up. Yeah, they've run out of Fire Nation cards, and yeah, this is what you do. This is not mentioned in the instructions, but it is the way the game is meant to be played. You don't. It's not just a case of like you've survived all these cards running out. No, in the same way that your deck gets to refresh, their deck gets to refresh. So there we go. All heroes -1. Can't draw extra cards this turn. Which isn't too bad, because Aang has, as you can see here, 7 cards in hand this turn. So let's add these all up and see what we're going to do. Two directed funnels, I suppose, is what we'll do first. So that's +4, and we get the bending of cards go on top of the deck effect. So we've got that. We've got 2 lychee nuts. So that's +2 attack and +2 healing. Air Blast gives us +1 attack, and if we defeat, which we're not going to this turn, Water Whip is +1 and +2, but we have 5 attack, so you can sort of see that just with a couple extra cards in the deck, we're getting quite powerful. Early on, we were lucky to do like 1 damage each turn. Now Aang is generating 5 purpose, 5 things, and we've still got this card. So we have 5 of this. I'm going to play Airbender Tattoos. All heroes get +1. So I'll give Katara 1 as well. Or I'll just try it. I'll hope that Katara survives the next turn, because she is only on 2 health. So 2 damage and she's gone. Well, she's stunned. She's not gone. And you can see here, this is actually interesting. Appease Heibai is the next objective. Assign 2 healing. So we actually could have used our lychee nuts on that, but I don't think we need to. I think we need to focus on Zuko for now. So yeah, that's what I'll do. All 5 damage goes on Zuko. So Katara should be able to deal with him next turn. And then we have 5 left over here to spend on stuff. And I will buy... I'll buy Tyro, actually. Sorry, this goes into the discard pile. 2 left over. There's nothing I can really do with it. There are some cards that have 2. There's very few cards that have a 2 cost, so just be aware of that. So there's that. That's everything. So 1 card gets jumped in. So there's Oyaji now joins the pile over here. We're still kind of low on water. There's only 1 card left. Otherwise, I think we're pretty good. So we'll just refresh Aang's hand, so he draws 5 cards. This goes into the discard pile. Katara should have 5 cards in hand as well. Yes. And then I didn't play anything that made Katara draw cards. So yeah. We'll see what happens here. So boom. Active hero -1 and discards a card. That's not bad. So Katara goes down to 1, so she's very close to being stunned, but stun is 0. So you have to take a damage at 1 to actually lose health here. And then Zuko's effect only happens when tracking is added, so nothing actually happens with Zuko at the moment. So what do we have here? We have triple offer aid for 3 more purpose. We have water vial. Any hero +2. I could do the... I'm going to do water vial and assign the 2 hearts to appeasing Heibai. Just while I'm here and have a healing effect, I'll do that. So this completes that. All heroes get +1 purpose is the reward for that. And then we also have Water Whip. So Katara gets +1 and also +2 attack. One of which will be used to defeat Zuko. When Zuko is defeated, we go back by 2. So the tracking goes back to 6. And Zuko is defeated as well. And then we can spend our 6 purpose on cards. So, Katara is going to buy... I guess she'll buy Water Sphere Shield. And these 2, I guess, will go to waste, unfortunately. So that is all the water cards bought for box 1. And then as we clean up, what's happening here? Yeah, we just have to replace these 2. So we completed the Heibai effect. We're on to contact Roku at the Fire Temple. Assign 2 purpose and assign 2 attack. Zuko is defeated as well. So he gets turned over. We already got his reward. The last adversary is just the simple Fire Nation soldier. Each time a Fire Nation card or an adversary causes a hero to discard a card, that hero gets -1. So this is probably the easiest card to deal with, because it's each time another effect makes you discard a card. He doesn't make you discard a card. Each time something else makes you discard, you lose 1. Which I don't think is as bad as Zuko's 1, where it's more of a, you know, -2 when a tracking gets assigned. So not too bad there. But yeah, that was Katara's turn, and now it's Aang's turn. So flip tracking +2. And then that has not made me discard a card. So that's all that happens. Then we get to go. Now, can we defeat this turn? Actually, pretty much, yeah, we can. So what we're going to do here is air kick. +2 purpose, +2 attack. We have 2 offer aids for +2 more purpose. We have water sphere shield for +1 purpose, and we draw a card, and so does Katara. So we do have to shuffle our discard pile. And this is an important thing to note. Played cards being different than your discard pile. They don't go straight into the discard pile unless it says so. So that we draw 1. We will then play Airbender Tattoos. And I'll just get +2 this time. Because we're getting pretty close to the end of the game. I think I just want to stack up a bunch of stuff here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Avatar State for 3. So I'll go from 5 to 4, then to 2. And I want to get 2 attack and 1 purpose. So the reason I did this is because, hey, Fire Nation Soldier only has 4 health. All 4 get assigned to the Fire Nation Soldier. The Fire Nation Soldier is defeated. We get +1 health. All heroes get +1 health. So he's defeated. All the adversaries are gone. So the only time we're taking damage is by the fire effect stuff. Now we can laser focus in on contacting Roku at the Fire Temple. Actually, yeah, one of these, sorry, should be this. For Avatar State, I wanted 1 extra of these instead, sorry. That way it's not going to waste. So we're assigning 1 and then 2. So only 1 attack is needed to finish Roku at the Fire Temple. And then we still have, how many is this? 4, 5, 6 purpose left over. And I'm going to buy Blubbered Seal Jerky and Lychee Nuts. So Shayu joins the thing over here. We'll then draw up to 5. There's our new hand. 2 Earthbender characters is kind of nice. Especially next box, something like that would be nice. Oh, and then I never did Katara's thing. So yeah, Katara should have an extra card in her hand. So we have to draw 6 cards for Katara because of that effect. And this probably won't be the final turn because I think there is 1 more objective or maybe 2 more objectives. But anyway, as we go to the next turn, there's no adversaries, but it's still +2 tracking. So you'll note here it goes to 10. That the tracking now is on 10. So starting from next turn, that is going to play a role. Except, as we start our turn, Fog puts it straight back down to 9. So that'll save us from having to deal with 2 cards. So that's nice. And then we're just trying to generate stuff. Okay, I'll play Water Whip. So we get 2 and 1. Before I even play my other cards, I'm going to straight away assign this here. Aang gains reward card 5, which is the Roku card. So this is completed. So Aang gets the Avatar Roku card, which is very powerful. Look at this. You can see he's an avatar, so he's all 4 elements, which is very helpful. Every hero chooses 2 of these things. +1 attack, +1 purpose, +1 health, or +1 cards in hand. So you can draw 2, you can draw 1 and an attack. Very, very useful card. It doesn't become a starter card for Aang though. This will just basically be in the deck over here for the remainder of the games as just a power card. It costs 8 though, which is a pretty especially in later boxes, that is a borderline impossible amount, I find, until you're very late in the game and have basically already won, to achieve. I will say that straight away though. And then yeah, there is just the one left, I think. Yeah, it's just Escape the Pirates, but that's not active until next turn. So the only thing that matters from here on out really is we don't need to worry about generating attack power, so it's just purpose that we really care about. So so we get 1 from this, 1 from the other water whip. We have 2 water sphere shields, so we get 2 more of this, but we also draw 2 more cards. So any hero +2. So we'll heal using the Kyoshi Warrior Fan for +2, and then any 2 heroes +1. So 1 just in case, because again the attack doesn't matter with the remainder of the turn, and that leaves us with 5 purpose to buy stuff with. So we are going to buy Shayu. That's pretty nice. And then this could be the final turn of the game, but we'll see. So yeah, 1 card, the final card of the deck is going to get added into this. It's just another Kyoshi Warrior Fan. This flips over, and they're on 9. Again, we pushed it back to 9, so they don't draw 2. Active hero -2, and there's no adversaries in play, and then Aang just gets to go. So if we assign 3 attack, we've won, but unfortunately in our hand so far we only have 1 attack from Airball. I'll play King Boomy for +2 purpose and another draw. Sorry, drawing from here. 2 offer aids. So this might actually not be the final turn. We'll play Tyro for another 2. And Airbender Staff for 1. So we get to assign 1 attack to the pirates. And we have 6 to spend. So what will I buy? I'll just buy Directed Funnel and Blubbered Seal Jerky. And then it will move on to Katara's turn. So next card, active hero -2. That's all that happens. And then hopefully this is the final turn of the game. And yeah, it will be. So Water Vial gives us +1 attack. Lychee Nuts gives us +1 attack and a healing. We will then assign these 2 to Escape the Pirates. That finishes Escape the Pirates. Final objective, which gives us the reward of Waterbending Scroll. Which is a starter card for Katara, so this will be in her deck for the rest of the game. Going into box 2 onwards. Pretty nice card. It's draw a card or heal +2. Any 1 hero. So that is good. And that is the game over. We have defeated all the missions and defeated all the adversaries before the enemies have got the tracker, the ship, to 15. That is a victory in box 1 for us. So there it is. So you can see on the back of the box, it says that the game takes about an hour. And I did a full narrated playthrough of box 1 here. And you can see it took just over an hour, given that I was explaining every move in kind of a lot of detail overall. Now, obviously, you then move on to box 2. I won't explain everything here because that will be saved for the next video. But obviously, if you open box 2, there is a separate little rules book that basically tells you what changes. Like, the objective is going to be the same. Here's all the stuff that there is in box 2 and so on. But you'll note that what happens here is, it's at the bottom it says here, you do not get to start the game with any of the other support cards you acquired from box 1. Those cards should have been returned to the supply decks and shuffled in during setup. And it tells you right here, the starting cards for box 2 for your heroes should be, for Aang, his 10 original starting cards plus Avatar State. So Aang actually gets to start the game with this in his deck. So he now has 11 cards in his starting deck, because we got that from the rewards from box 1. Sokka will also have 10 plus Suki. Katara gets 10 plus the waterbending scroll and Haru. So she actually has 12 cards in her deck. And then Appa is 10 plus Momo. But of course, all the other cards that you got, because just to highlight this, look at the size of the deck that Aang finished that game with. How many cards is in this? Not to mention the 2 removed from play cards. These have to come back into play now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 25. We started with 10. We ended up with 25 cards. So we added 15 cards to our deck. And I think for a deck building game, that's pretty good. I think Katara has a few less, but close-ish to that number overall. So that's sort of the idea there. And then also note that, yes, there is one new gameplay mechanic that will be added into the game in box 2. And it's the one that I touched on before, which is sort of the idea of, oh, hey, does only Aang get to use, like, to buy multiple bending disciplines? But no, basically this mechanic is sort of, what way does this operate again? Yeah, the idea is when you get Haru, you can choose to play Haru for the effect, or add Haru to your player board, which would basically do this. So it's basically the idea of Haru gets added here. He then is kind of joining Katara as part of like the player board, and now Katara's kind of board has water and earth bending. Now, if we play an earthbending card, because that next box will also introduce earthbending cards, like the airbending and waterbending cards like this. So there will be cards that have earth, something happens. Katara will actually get the second effect because of that. What's going on here. Effects will also be introduced specifically to target allies, to either discard them from hand or discard them from what's called, this is called like Haru is in reserve, basically here. And so there's that. Obviously the avatars, like the Roku card here, if you add him, because he is an ally, into reserve, of course, he adds all the bending disciplines in. So Katara now could use airbending cards as well. It is a mechanic that I don't think comes up as much as you think it does, but just be aware of that. And then very quickly, without going into a ton of detail, the idea obviously is that you separate the starter cards from the non-starter cards, keeping in mind that you now have Avatar State and Haru and Waterbending Scroll are also starter cards. Starter cards are signified by having the character's name in the bottom. Separate them out. Basically what you do is you shuffle all them together, and then the instructions will tell you specifically what to kind of get rid of and stuff like that. It specifies, where is it here? Yeah. Remove any cards from play that are only for box 1. This includes Commander Zhao and the box 1 objective cards. So the only cards you're actually getting rid of from box 1 are this Zhao. All these enemies will stay, but specifically you get rid of this Zhao. And this is where I'll just quickly introduce right in the corner here. The reason it says 1-1 is because that's the sort of, it starts in box 1 and this card ends in box 1. Compared to, say, Iroh, who you can see here, he starts in box 1 and ends in box 2. So Iroh will be an enemy for box 2, but when we go into box 3, he'll be taken out. Whereas, say, like Fire Nation's ship, as you can see here, is 1-7, so it will be present in the adversary deck for all games. This deck here, you never take any cards out of this deck up here. That just stays the same. And then as you go into the other boxes, there will be slightly awkward times where you do have to take apart the other deck and like take out these specific 3 cards, like the deck that features, like, say, Oyaji. Oyaji is only in the game for the first 2 boxes, so when you go into box 3, you do have to take apart the support deck and be like, okay, Oyaji comes out, this other thing comes out, and then these other 3 cards come in, or whatever. But yeah, that's the how to play box 1 setup. And I will have another video talking about how, showing off in detail how we set up box 2. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.